I've got a story to tell. And while I tell it, I'm going to be processing some thoughts that I've been having over this last weekend. So for those of you who don't know, don't follow me, or that you're not in my Discord server, you don't know that I have been at war. I'm in the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronism. We have big camping events, collectively called wars. And so from Wednesday through Sunday, I've been at war. And one of the big, major, the main draws of these events are the melees, where you get, 10, 20, 30, 50 people to a side, and you go out and do, war scenarios. Lots, a big glob of people versus a big glob of people, generally with some sort of objective. Not always. Sometimes we warm up with a little, just kill everybody. Just get warmed up for the day. But most of the time you have objectives. There is a win condition for one or both sides. And I want to talk about one in particular in order to draw the point that I'm looking to make today. In the scenario, you have an attacking team and a defending team. The defending team is stationed inside of a castle made of hay bales with choke points and hallways, and it's highly defensible. The attacking team has unlimited resurrections. All you got to do is when you die, you go back to your resurrection point, touch it, you're alive again. The defending team, they can only resurrect 3 times. Attacking team has unlimited lives. The attacking team wins if they can kill everybody on the defending team within 10 minutes. If 10 minutes elapses and there's anyone left alive on the defending team wins. So clearly, this lends itself towards certain styles of gameplay. The defending team needs to use their choke points very carefully. They need to play defensively, stay alive as long as possible, try not to give ground, use intersections and what we call kill pockets. The attacking team just needs to go and kill as often as possible. Doesn't matter if you die at the same time, you just go resurrect. It costs you a few seconds of walking. But what I found, very interestingly, and much to my frustration at the time, because in the long run, it doesn't matter. No one actually cares who wins these objectives or who wins these scenarios in the long run. But at the time, I found it quite frustrating. Was that my side would often not be advancing. If in a scenario where both sides have a limited number of resurrections, you're probably going to find people marching up in a line, posting just outside of the enemy's reach and sort of poking, looking for openings, trying to bait them out. And that's what they were doing. But we have unlimited resurrections. They don't. We're on a time limit. Why would you play that defensive game, that sort of passive, stand there and hope for something to happen kind of gameplay? They are not at all motivated to come out. The onus is on the attacking team to make something happen. Even when, people are shouting commands, step forward, go, go, go. Even then, they won't go. You've got, a rank of people in front and a rank of people behind, and we're like, go, go, go. The front line does not move. Back line can't move through them. There was even one point, and this is maybe the most vivid memory that I have of this event. One of the most vivid memories I have of this event, which is where I have a line of people, of my allies in front of me. They're holding the line. They're not moving forward. We need to get to a doorway that is behind the enemy line. They are defending it. They are blocking us from getting to it. I walk up through my allies' line, and by the way, if you can't tell from the video, I'm a big guy. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm quite broad-shouldered. I carry 2 swords on the battlefield, 2 kind of long swords. I also walk intentionally in a rather intimidating way. Big steps, shoulder movements. I draw attention on purpose. So I step through my line, draw 4 or 5 attacks at once. I die. I don't even remember if I killed anyone. I might have killed somebody on the way out. I don't remember. I turn around to go resurrect. and my allies have not moved. And that was very disappointing to me. At the time, I was just frustrated because in our sport, there is an emphasis on staying alive, and I think a lot of people sort of take that to the extreme. In any context, I must stay alive. That is top priority, and like, it's not in the scenarios where you have unlimited lives. In a tournament environment, if you're one-on-one in a tournament, killing each other counts as a loss for both. So the format emphasizes stay alive as the top priority. Because if you don't die, then regardless of what happens, as long as you don't die, you're good. But when the context changes, I think a lot of people have trouble changing their mindset and coming around to, like, I am a tool for my side to advance an objective. And at the time I was quite just frustrated with it. Like, we're not winning because our team is not being aggressive. And, like, you could stop there. But I think it's more interesting to look a little bit deeper into the psychology of players, because they are players. It is a game. It is a sport / game, whatever. You know, we're there to have fun. At the end of the day, there is a winner, there's a loser, but no one actually cares in the long run, right? We're there to have fun. But we are players on a team, and we've been given an objective. If you recall, Sabrok's first law of being an honorable gamer is value what the game tells you to value. And the game has told us to value winning to accomplish this objective, whether it's kill all the defenders in a given amount of time, deliver a payload to a drop point. You know, these are all different objectives that can happen in these melees. And it's interesting to me to see that a lot of players, like more than half of my side, did not value winning over what they sort of like the default value that they've been instilled with in other aspects of this sport. And I found that very interesting. And I think it is a telling look on how people approach game-related value systems, where, like, you know, because they've been told, or they've been trained even to value staying alive over all else. And when the context of the game changes, they are unable or unwilling, or it just doesn't occur to them to change their value from I must stay alive to I will die for the cause. And what that does, when you have some people on the team who don't change their value system to match the given scenario, and some people who do, because my friends and I, the people that I generally play with, the people who are local to me, my battle group, we train for melees. We know how to process an objective and pursue that objective. We see a goal and we immediately calculate how to accomplish that goal in the most efficient, most effective way possible. You know, a little bit of that sort of, that intuitive amount of game theory that all people are capable of. Like, I'm not talking about like the mathematical, you know, strict logical game theory. I'm talking about like this sort of like, you know, the thing where you think like, okay, if I was on their side, what would I do? That basic level of game theory. But not everyone on our side was, and we're only like 10 people. You know, I don't think we ever fielded more than 10 people at this event. And, you know, on a side of 30 or 40 people, we're a minority. The majority of our side did not consider how to apply what they know to a new situation. They just sort of like locked into what they already knew, the way that they normally fight, which is stay out of measure, stay defensive, and stay alive. What ended up happening, and a couple of different things ended up happening with that. One, we were not synergizing with each other. You know, I go in, I die to create an opening for my allies, but my allies don't take advantage of it. And so it's just a lost opportunity, and we accomplished nothing there. The other thing that happened was we would tend to group up with each other. one of my friends would wait and see for a couple of us to go resurrect. He would gather us up and we would move as a group to go accomplish a thing because we knew that each other were willing to die. We would go forward and we would, breach the defenses and create an opening for our allies to move forward safely. Because they wouldn't do it themselves. Because we have goal-oriented thinking. And I found it just really interesting. Like I said, at the time I found it frustrating. Upon later retrospect, I found it really interesting to see, or really interesting to think about the kind of mentality that these people have and apply that very same thinking to tabletop role-playing games. Because what you have a lot of the time is people who play D&D and they've been told, or maybe they have, previous experiences with D&D, but they've been told that it is played a certain way. A lot of this comes up when you think about battlefield roles, the defender, the healer, the support, the AoE, the artillery, whatever you have, whatever roles you think exist in an RPG or should exist in an RPG. You kind of train your mind to think in those terms, regardless of whether or not they actually exist. Because as I have shown, and as I've said many times, they don't exist in 5th edition. There are no roles in 5th edition. Everyone is kind of in it for themselves. You either drop control, or you do damage, or neither, or both. There isn't really any niches to fill. There isn't really well-defined teamwork, I guess, is what I'm getting at. But people tend to approach 5th edition with the mindset that these things do exist. How many times have you seen on Reddit, I'm playing a tank, or, how to tank in 5th edition, these kinds of things. And oftentimes they get told that there's no such thing as tanking. But regardless, it's a pervasive thing that people think these kinds of things exist, even if by looking at the rules and looking at what actual options are available, clearly they do not. The idea of the squishy wizard, which is a complete myth. Wizards are not squishy in 5th edition unless they choose to be. The idea of the squishy wizard is something that people kind of assume is true, even though there is no evidence to suggest that it is. The game kind of makes, lip service towards squishy wizards with them having D6 hit dice. It's an absolutely tiny thing. It's kind of, and on the reverse side, barbarians getting D12 hit dice is supposed to make them really durable. Who cares? These are such incredibly minor things, but people take them as a sign that this is the way that the game is. Rather than actually looking at the evidence, looking at the math, they will argue against cold, hard math because they assume that this is the way the game is played. Because it's the way they've been told it's played, or the way it used to play, or the way that they remember it playing, even if it never did. And I find it just a really interesting aspect of gamer psychology. And it makes me think that the majority of people, maybe not the majority, actually. You could do studies, see what the percentages are. There's at least a population of people who are not goal-oriented thinkers. I know that I am a goal-oriented thinker, and I think there's a lot of people in my various online circles that are also goal-oriented thinkers, where we see the goal that has been stated for us, okay, here is the admittedly arbitrary objective that we are trying to achieve, either because the game has stated it, or the person running the scenarios has stated it, or whatever, or our group has decided that this is the goal. And I see that, and I'm like, okay, what are my resources that I have to accomplish this goal? What are the rules that I have to, the framework of rules that I have to operate within? And I sort of construct a path towards that goal. And this is a thing that I've done for so long, and I do it so automatically, so reflexively, that I often don't think about it. But I'm starting to realize that not everyone does this. that some people sort of like, I'm not a psychologist. I don't have any like training or formal education in like the way that brains work. But I find it really fascinating to think that this isn't how like most people approach anything, really, whether it's games or life or whatever. I'm starting to come to grips with that, and it's really, really interesting. And I think that this is the fundamental divide between what we would call optimizers in tabletop games or in gaming in general, the divide between optimizers and non-optimizers. And I'm not sure, but I think that is the core fundamental difference between those two. And it might be that neither side recognizes that the other one thinks about the world differently. This might be something, actually. This might actually really be something. I'd be fascinated to know if there's any studies on this. So if you have a background in psychology, for sure, let me know. But I think that's what it is. Gaming, optimizer gamers tend to be goal-oriented. We see a goal, we assess our resources, the framework we have to work in, and we construct a path to accomplish that goal in the best way possible. Non-optimizers don't do that. They either don't acknowledge the goal, or they pretend the goal is different than it is, or they don't make a plan going out to pursue the goal. They are going to go do something else. You could say that it's a violation of Stabrock's first law, valuing what the game tells you to value. I don't think it is that. I think it's something different. I don't know what it is. I don't know. What a great way to end a video is I have no conclusions here to give you. No, I think it might have more to do with just a desire to experience the game rather than engage with it actively. I think there is a certain appeal to I'm just going to do a thing and see what the game does in response. I've played games like that, like video games. I'll sometimes do that, particularly story heavy games. I'll just sort of do my own thing and see what happens. I'm going to experience the game the way the designers want it to be experienced. When I don't think that approach is particularly good for a lot of games. Sometimes it is. Video games, I think, is a particularly apt a medium for that kind of approach. I don't think it works well for tabletop games or, in this particular scenario, simulated war games. But yeah, I just found that to be a really interesting way to think about it. I think I'm onto something. I think this is really a core fundamental difference in the mindset between an optimizer and a non-optimizer. Is this goal-oriented thinking that I'm starting to realize not everyone does. It is only recently dawning on me that this is not a normal. It's not even abnormal. It's not a automatic thing. It's not a universal experience, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I just find that really interesting.